You got the promotion. You hit the goal. You finished the thing everyone said would be impossible. And for a brief moment, maybe just a few seconds, maybe a few hours, it felt good. It felt like enough. But then, almost without warning, that quiet voice crept back in. The one that whispered, "Sure, but what's next?" That wasn't really that impressive. Anyone could have done that. And just like that, the win dissolved. The achievement that was supposed to finally make you feel worthy became just another item checked off a list that never seems to end. If that feels familiar, you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not broken. What you are experiencing has a name, a history, and, most crucially, an explanation rooted deep in the psychology of how you learned to see yourself. Today, we are going to sit with that feeling. We are going to look it directly in the eye and understand where it comes from, why it has followed you this far, and what it is truly trying to protect you from. Because here is something most people never realize. The feeling of not being good enough is not a character flaw. It is a survival strategy that outlived its purpose. To understand why achievement never feels like enough, we have to go back further than your last performance review, further than your college applications, further than your earliest memory of being compared to someone else. We have to go back to childhood, because that is where this story almost always begins. As children, we are exquisitely sensitive to the emotional environment around us. Our young minds are wired not just to learn language and walk upright, but to read the adults in our lives for signals about whether we are safe, loved, and valued. When love, attention, or approval was conditional, when it came only after good grades, perfect behavior, or outstanding performance, our developing brains drew a very logical conclusion. I am only worthy when I achieve. Psychologists call this conditional positive regard, a term coined by humanistic psychologist Carl Rogers to describe environments where affection and acceptance are tied to meeting certain standards. It does not require a neglectful parent or an overtly critical home. It can happen in the most loving of families. A parent who lit up at report cards but went quiet during ordinary moments. A household where your value was communicated through what you did rather than who you were. A culture or community that celebrated accomplishment loudly but rarely made space for simply existing as enough. Over time, the nervous system learns to associate achievement with safety and worthiness and falls apart without it. This is where the cycle begins to make painful sense. As adults, we carry that child's nervous system with us into every boardroom, every relationship, every creative endeavor. We pursue achievement not purely from ambition or passion, but because some part of us believes, genuinely, deeply believes, that the next accomplishment will finally be the one that settles the question of our worth once and for all. Psychologists refer to this as the arrival fallacy, a term popularized by positive psychology researcher Tal Ben-Shahar. It is the illusion that once we reach a certain destination, we will feel permanently, sustainably fulfilled. But the destination keeps moving. It has to. Because the goal was never really the promotion or the degree or the number on the scale. The goal, the one operating beneath the surface, was to finally feel enough. And no external achievement can reach that deep. What makes this pattern so exhausting is how invisible it often is from the outside. Many people who carry this wound are the ones the world points to as examples of success. They are the overachievers, the perfectionists, the ones who seem to have it all together while privately feeling like a fraud. This is closely related to what psychologists call imposter syndrome, the persistent belief that your success is undeserved, that you have fooled everyone around you, and that it is only a matter of time before someone figures out you are not as capable as they think. Studies suggest that up to 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives, and it disproportionately affects high achievers. The very people doing the most often feel it the least. This feeling also has a profound effect on relationships. When your sense of worth is tied to performance, intimacy becomes quietly terrifying. If people only love me for what I do, what happens when I fail? What happens when I rest? The answer, for many, is that rest never truly comes. There is always another project, another goal, another reason to keep pushing. Because slowing down feels like standing still on a moving floor, like falling behind in a race toward a finish line that does not exist. In relationships, this creates a painful dynamic, giving endlessly to prove your value, struggling to receive love without immediately questioning its authenticity, and keeping people at arm's length because real vulnerability requires believing you are worth knowing beyond your accomplishments. There is also a neurological dimension to this experience that is worth understanding. When achievement does produce a moment of satisfaction, the brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and motivation. But here is the catch. The brain is wired to habituate. The same achievement that produced a dopamine rush the first time produces less of one the second time, and even less the third. This is why the goalpost keeps moving. It is not weakness or ingratitude. It is neurochemistry. The brain is constantly recalibrating what counts as a reward, which means external validation will always be a diminishing return on an internal investment. You cannot achieve your way into a feeling that achievement was never designed to produce. So what does healing actually look like? It does not look like abandoning your goals or pretending you do not care about growth. It means beginning the slow, courageous process of separating your worth from your output. It means learning, often for the very first time, that you were enough before you ever accomplished anything. That the child who existed before the grades, the accolades, and the comparisons had inherent value simply by being alive. And that child is still inside you, still waiting to be told that they are enough exactly as they are. Practically, this begins with awareness. Start noticing the voice that dismisses your wins. Ask yourself, whose voice does this sound like? When did I first learn that this was not enough? These are not easy questions, and they are not meant to be answered quickly. They are meant to be sat with, explored with compassion, and ideally unpacked with the support of a therapist or counselor who can help you trace the roots of these patterns back to their origin. It also means practicing what psychologists call intrinsic validation, deliberately acknowledging your efforts, your growth, and your character, independent of outcomes. Not because you performed well, but because you showed up, because you tried, because you are human, and that alone counts for something profound. And perhaps most importantly, it means grieving. Grieving the childhood version of you who had to earn love. Grieving the years spent chasing a feeling that the external world was never equipped to give you. That grief is not weakness. It is the beginning of something genuinely new. You are not too much. You are not too little. You are not behind, and you are not failing. You are a person who learned very early that love had to be earned, and you have been earning it ever since, exhausting yourself in the process. The work now is not to achieve more. The work is to finally, gently, put that burden down and discover what has been true all along, that you were always already enough.